Nice. That's one of them new Ben Franklins you count there, baby Bob.
You don't stop.
Gotta get that money.
You don't stop.
Oh man, this is how we do it. East, west.
What up, people? So today we're going to talk about the pros and cons of her having a great dad or growing up with a great male role model or male figure, consistent male figure in her life. So I know the popular topic is to talk about women with daddy issues or women with absent fathers, but I don't think we really kind of dig deep into both sides of the equation when it comes to women who have grown up with a great father or great dad, and some things that you might have experienced or have run into when you deal with a woman who has grown up with a great dad. So let's talk about that shit today. So first thing is, well, let's start with the pros. All right. So let's be positive, and then let's go a little negative, and then we'll kind of blend it in together so it makes some type of sense. But you know, a pro for women who did grow up with a consistent father figure is that they do understand consistency. They do understand the primary male role in the household, which is to provide and set order and, you know, display or empower some form of discipline. A man who is financially responsible is very important to them. A man who can speak wisdom and knowledge and give them, you know, sound advice, that is also very important. So, you know, for example, if you run into a situation where you guys are having a deep conversation about something, or you need to teach her something, or she's asking you for help, you'll notice that women who grew up with a consistent father figure in their life, or a healthy father figure in their life, tend to be a little bit more receptive to those types of conversations, and they tend to be a little bit more attentive and engaged when it comes to receiving advice or receiving knowledge from your end, depending on, you know, whatever you guys are talking about, whatever the issue or concern may be. You will notice this, and this is a great thing. These women have experienced a consistent level of support and love, whether that be emotional love or physical support through acts of service or words of affirmation. You know, all of the love languages actually kind of spill over into that dynamic too, not just like a romantic dynamic when we talk about love language. So some of those things on a consistent level, they've also been able to receive and appreciate and grow to know to be true about a man, or what a man should be. And those things are wonderful. All right. Now, while all of those things are good, there are some things that I don't think, you know, as men, we notice can be a hardship within the relationship and within the dynamic, because they've had a consistent father figure or a great father figure. And one of those things is her concept of love and her concept of unconditional love. Now, this is typically not really talked about in a negative light, and I don't mean to paint it in a negative light, but I would like to speak some reality to the situation. So when there are issues in the relationship, or when something is not necessarily going as planned, or maybe not going her way in particular, you know, if she's grown up with a great father, a great supportive father, that father more than likely made sure she was taken care of. And that's a very broad, you know, concept, right? Taken care of. But, you know, when we talk about having an attitude or throwing a fit or being emotional and throwing a temper tantrum, you know, not really communicating effectively, but more so just being emotional, you know, whatever that the definition of emotional is for that particular scenario. But if she's had a great father, that father really kind of allowed her to do that and still supported her, and more so just made sure she was still safe and protected, because that dynamic of it as a father is not really, I don't want to say important, but important is not important, for a lack of a better term, because that's not his intimate partner, right? That's not his spouse or someone he's looking for mutual comfort from or mutual understanding from, in that sense. So when she's throwing those fits and throwing those temper tantrums, or when she's not getting her way, her dad, you know, he's not really worried about that shit. He's just, you know, he may say some sweet shit to her, or he may laugh it off, or he may not think it's a big of a deal, or he may not react to it at all, unless in fact she's being disrespectful in her role as the daughter of the child to an adult and her father as the man of the house. Unless it becomes disrespectful or dangerous, he probably just lets her do that shit. The problem is that in the relationship, in the intimate relationship between you two, when you get into a disagreement, or when you two get into a misunderstanding and she wants to be emotional, or she wants to be combative, or she wants to be passive aggressive, as her intimate partner, you know, you're not her father. So that's a problem for you. In that certain amount of uproar, and that certain amount of being emotional, or that certain amount of combative energy or passive aggressive energy, that affects you and that affects the relationship, because y'all's dynamic is different. And since she's had a great father and she has known unconditional love, so her actions are not judged on a conditional scale, right? From a man. So you being a man in an intimate relationship with her, all she knows is a great father figure, a great leader, a great man in her life, and she knows unconditional love. So she's been able to do things unconditionally because, you know, there's really no consequence. You know what I'm saying? But everything about your relationship with her as her intimate partner is very much so conditional. You guys are not related by blood, clearly, right? There's some type of lifestyle condition. There's a condition of appearance. There's a condition of finances. There's a condition of actions. There's a condition of morals and values and amount of effort you put in. All of those things play into the makeup of you guys being together and staying together. So sometimes throughout the relationship, even when it's not so much negative, when she's growing up with a great father figure and she knows unconditional love, sometimes she may miss the fact that what you two have is very conditional, and that you don't have to be her man, just as she doesn't have to be your woman. She doesn't have to be your girlfriend. She doesn't have to be your wife. You know, she can throw all those fits and she can do and act as if she wants to without consequence with her father, you know, in times past or years past, or even in current, you know, times, because that's always going to be her dad. But you don't have to always be her man. And that sometimes too, just to generalize the topic, just to not make this video too long, that tends to be the root factor that goes into issues with being with a woman who has had a great father figure, is that sometimes she'll want that same type or that same style of unconditional love, but she'll want it in an intimate way. Like, she'll want the style and dynamic to be intimate, right? But she'll want the general energy of the relationship to be unconditional, as it was with her father, with her great dad. And you're not her dad. And y'all's relationship and y'all's energy and y'all's love is very much so conditional, and it requires work and it requires compromise. And, you know, once again, going back to her dad, the great dad's love, you know, can be sacrificed, right? Sacrificing for your children, right? And you're not her dad. You know, like, things are, they have to meet somewhere in the middle, and there has to be compromise. So, you know, you could be experiencing things like she wants to push her ways on you, or she doesn't really consider your energy or your feelings, or she doesn't consider what's important to you, and she's kind of only thinking about herself, and not in a selfish way, but more so in a self-centered way, to where, you know, there's been a great man in her life that has prioritized her and only her, and it's never really been about him, because once again, from that position as her father, he's making sure that she's okay and she's protected. So she's never really been in the environment to where she has to make sure that her man, you know, is protected and he feels good and he feels safe and he feels, you know, worthy, and all of, you know, those other things that go into a intimate partnership. So yeah, so if you're dealing with a woman who comes from a great home with a great father figure, overall, it is a very good situation. These people will tend to be open to communication. They'll tend to be, they'll have better values and morals and better home training, for lack of a better term. But you do have to watch out for that underlying tone of them, you know, not even sometimes not even expecting, but just kind of having this frame of unconditional loves. And sometimes as a man in a relationship, you kind of have to step up and put your chest out and kind of check that shit, because they'll start just doing crazy shit or talking to you crazy, or they'll start kind of acting out of character or doing a bunch of things because they have had a great father figure who just, you know, comes to save the day or forgives them, or, you know, it's not their dynamic for her to make him feel a certain type of way because that's her dad, you know, who gives a shit, you know, dad is taking care of the children, you know, like nobody's looking out for dad's emotions. Dad is looking out for the safety and the continued legacy of, you know, his lineage. He's not, you know, the dynamic is so much different. And as a woman who has experienced that unconditional dynamic, she may want that unconditional dynamic to translate over into her intimate relationships. And that's something that can be a headache, and it can be hard to pinpoint, because it may not really just stand out to you as like a blatant dramatic topic, or something that's just like, oh yeah, like she's a crazy bitch and she's keying my car, or she's throwing my shit around. You know, it could just be she's very uncompromising, or she's very much about herself, or when she gets uncomfortable, she acts like a different person, or she throws fits, or, you know, just little small shit like that. Or, you know, when it comes to the positive things, it becomes all about what she wants and where she sees things going, or her desires in the relationship, or what's important to her, you know. And a lot of that too, once again, comes from her having that great father figure who made sure she was protected and taken care of. So that's not to rule out women who have great father figures. Once again, I've just said it. That is great. That is a beautiful thing. If she did grow up with a great, consistent father figure, there's not a ton of that in the world. So definitely take advantage of that situation. And if you guys can make that work, please make that work, because that is a good thing to have. The positive definitely outweighs the negative. But be aware of that when you're dealing with her, because there could be things that turn toxic or turn bad or go the wrong way in the relationship, because her view and her frame of love and relationships can be very unconditional and very sacrificing or sacrificial from the man to her, because that's all she knows. Okay, so it'll take some deep diving, and it'll take some additional communication to get that through. And another hard thing is that once she's brought up to speed on this and you bring this to her attention, if you guys are going through this, it may be hard for her to digest that, just because too, you know, her father has groomed her to, you know, only accept that unconditional love. So it'll be hard for her to really digest the fact that what you two have is conditional, but that doesn't make it bad, and it doesn't make it negative, or that shouldn't make it scary. It should actually make it very motivating, because you two are choosing and you're making a conscious choice to stay engaged with each other. And I think, at least in my opinion, that's a bigger compliment than being unconditionally bound to each other in an intimate relationship, to where in some ways you could kind of start to feel trapped or like you owe this person something because it is unconditional. But with it being conditional, it's like, hey, like, I'm really feeling you. I'm really here for you. I really care for you because I'm choosing to be here. So maybe you can package it that way and kind of juice it up in your own words based on your personality. I would say do that. But if you're running into issues, or if you're running into that bad gut feeling in the relationship and you're trying to figure it out because she doesn't have daddy issues and her daddy was super present and he was a great dad, it could be just that. It could be just the fact that she did have a great father and she struggles with some areas of performance in regards to consideration in the relationship and compromise in the relationship, because all she knows is a unconditional love. So I hope this helps some guys who may be struggling with a girl or a woman with a great father figure. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, share with a friend, leave a comment. Let me know what y'all guys think. I'll see y'all later. Peace.